Abundant Grace International School, we are located right in Obuasi, precisely BDM. The school has a number of facilities that aid in learning. We have qualified and trained teachers who are ready and willing to assist the children. The school has many facilities such as the ICT laboratory. We also have a science laboratory. We also have a library. The school has a number of buses which convey the children from their various destinations to the school premises. We have the football team, we have the drama group, we have a lot, and the school is based on the Christian principles. For more inquiries, you can call this number 0541 310 901 0541 670772. Abundant Grace, in God we trust.
Good day. I am very grateful once again, excuse me, to be at your service once again. My name is Mr. Samson Anani, and for AGPS TV today I am standing in for our English tutor. For one reason or another, she could not make it. And because I do not want you to miss such an important day, I have decided to be in her shoes. And so if you don't see me in our future tutorials in the English lesson, she will come and continue from where she had left off. And I know she has been very helpful to you in our moment of COVID-19, especially so when we try to help you in the English aspect of the various languages that we have tried to outline to aid you. And today I have carefully selected a topic that is titled Question Tags. Question Tag. Why have I carefully selected this topic? Those of you who are interested in exams, you will recall that in the past exams, these type of questions has been coming day in and day out, and students seems to have a challenge in that. It is not only at the basic level, but if you go into our high schools and even into our tertiary institutions, in us you see it as simple as people talk about, people still get them wrong. And by the end of my lessons, it is my hope that I'll make this topic as simple as possible. Now, when we talk about question tag, what does it simply mean? Question tags are simply grammatical structures. They are grammatical structures where declarative or imperative statements are turned into questions by the addition of interrogative fragments. Now, let me see if I can put it there. I said that question tags are simply grammatical structures where declarative statements or imperative statements are turned into questions by the addition of interrogative fragments. Now, for example, I can make a declarative statement, and the declarative statement will look like, you are Anani. This is a declarative statement. You are Anani. But I can turn this declarative statement into a question by the addition of interrogative fragments. So I say, you are Anani, then I ask a question. Aren't you? Aren't you? You are Anani. Then I ask, aren't you? So the iron that I have added to my declarative statement is what we refer to as the question tag. So the ones that I've underlined is what we term as question tag. And so I have turned my declarative statement into a fragment of interrogative statement. And so we refer this to as a question tag. Another example is that I met the boy. This is a declarative statement. I met the boy. So if I want to turn it into an interrogative fragment, then I can simply add, I met the boy, and I'll add, didn't I? I met the boy. Then I add, didn't I? So the didn't I that I'm adding is the fragment that induce an answer whether yes or no. And so that is what I am going to take you through, the preamble of question tag that I would like to take you through. Now, in trying to form a question tag, the question tag, the basic preamble or the basic element that you must consider is your auxiliary verbs. Now, you know that we have two types of verbs. We have the action verbs, then we have the state verbs. The state verbs are simply what we refer to as the helping verbs, or you can also call them the auxiliary verbs. But the auxiliary verbs, we have two types of them. The statement verbs, we have two. We have the auxiliary verbs, or we have the modal auxiliary verbs. The modal auxiliary verbs are the auxiliary verbs that has more than one uses. They have more than one uses. They don't only connect two simple statements. But if you look at auxiliary verb, the modal ones, sometimes they are used to express certainty, others they are used to express ability, others they are used to give command. And so we have certain verbs, even though they are in the state form. They are in the state form. In other words, they are not verbs that you can use to express actions. However, their uses go beyond a simple one. And so we call them the modal auxiliary verbs. And we use the auxiliary verbs or the modal auxiliary verbs as it were to form the basis of question tags. And so I am going to outline some simple auxiliary verbs and their modal, even though when you put them together, you are going to get about 24. The modal ones are 11, and then the auxiliary verbs are 13. And so when you put the two together, you'll be getting around 24. That is the be, been, and the rest, the has. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into all that. But I'm going to give some simple auxiliary verbs and their modal auxiliary verbs, and then how we are going to form question tags from them. And so let me simply write our verbs. So I have my verbs and I have their past. So let me see if I can write some simple one of them. And so I can have my auxiliary verbs like is, I can have am. I can have are. Then I can have, say, do. Then I can have does, has, have. Then, so I have is, am, are, do, does, has, have. Then will. Then we have shall. We have, so we have is, am, are, do, does, has, have, will, shall, and so we move on. So we have the past, we have can. Let me add can to this one, so that we have our is, the past will be was, the am to the was, then I we have where, then we have do, we have did, then we have had and had, then will we have would, and so the shall we have should, and then can we have could. So these are some examples. We don't have a spacious board to be able to answer to write all these for you. So I'm going to limit myself to the very few examples that it will permit me to put on the board. And so we have these examples. So whether the auxiliary verb is present or past, we call them auxiliary verbs. So the auxiliary verbs, this is what we have. And so we have some verbs in their present state. So let me put here present. So we have the present verbs, then we have the past verbs. But these are state verbs. They are not used to perform any particular action. Now these verbs that are in their bare forms, these verbs that are in their bare forms are what we refer to them as positive auxiliary verbs. We refer to them as positive auxiliary verbs. And for positive auxiliary verbs, when they are used in a statement, the statement becomes positive statement and or declarative statement. They become positive statements and or declarative statements and or imperative statements. And so anytime that you use them, you are using them in their original form. And so all the statements that we make, we may intend to use one of these auxiliary verbs either in their present form or in their past form. So for example, I am a teacher. And then the auxiliary verb I've used here is am. I am a teacher. And so I have am. Because I have used the am as its original statement, that makes this statement positive. Then the second statement that I want to make is that so I have this statement. He is a master on his own. He is a master on his own. And so once again, I have used a simple auxiliary verb as is. And so I have that. The third example and the final one I want to use for this example is that they did the work all by themselves. They did the work all by themselves. By now, I hope you'll be able to identify the auxiliary verb in the statement I have just outlined for 3. And if you have been able to do that, congratulations. I know by now you have underlined the auxiliary verb did as your modal, as your auxiliary verb or your state verb. And so you see that in cases where we use the auxiliary verbs or modal auxiliary verbs in the formation of statements, then those statements becomes positives. And so the first thing that you must understand is that when we are making statements, we may intend to use helping verbs. And that when you use these helping verbs in their original forms, we say that you are making positive statements. Then we have the negative ones. We have the negative statement. The negative statement are simply when you add not to the original auxiliary verbs. So if you look at the first one that I outlined, whether it is positive or negative, so we have am. The am was an auxiliary verb as I indicated. If I add not to it, this will give me a negative statement. This will give me a negative statement. If I have is and I add not to it, it gives me a negative statement. If I have cooled, which is the past tense of can, and then I add not to it, that gives me a negative statement. And so my first 3 examples are positives because they do not include not. That is preceded by the auxiliary verbs. But let us go to example 4-5. Example 4-5. And so my example 4 is going to give me a negative statement. So I write 4. So 4 writes, he could not write the exams. He could not write the exams. So you discover that because I have added not to the modal auxiliary verb could, then it makes that statement negative. And finally, let me also add this. Example 5. The boy is not here. The boy is not here. So if you look at the first 3 examples, you discover that these are auxiliary verbs without not. And so they are positive statements. And then the 4 and 5, because I have included not, we have negative statement. And so any statement you make will either be considered to be positive statement or negative statement. And then this statement we use auxiliary verbs for them. Now, we are going to use positive statements, auxiliary verbs, and the negative one. But we are going to do that with a contracted form. Contracted form simply means the short form of it. And so let me wrap up quickly with that and speed up. And all these things are just preambles. I want you to understand all these things so that we put them together as one. So one statement that I've made is that we want to add interrogative fragment to imperative statement to make our question tag. And I'm saying that question tags are simply formed from auxiliary verbs or modal auxiliary verbs. And that when you use the normal auxiliary verbs to make a statement, then we are talking about positive statement. However, if you add not to a normal auxiliary verb, then we are referring to a negative statement. And so we have these two, positive statement and a negative statement. So let us go back to the table. And so we use some of these. So we have our present, we have our present verbs, then we have our past, then we have the negative, then finally we have the contracted one. So I make my table. So let's come back to the am. The past will be was. Then the negative will be am plus not. Then the contracted form will be ain't. Then I have is, once again was. Then the negative will be is plus not. Then the contracted form will be isn't. Then I have shall. The past will be should. The negative will be shall plus not. Then the contracted form will be shan't. Then we have will. The past will be would. Then the negative will be shall, will plus not. And then the contracted form will be won't. I hope I have reminded you on some of these things. But when we are forming the question tag, the advice is that we mostly use the contracted form. We mostly use the contracted form. So instead of saying that I am a good boy, or sorry, if I want to say I am not a good boy, I'm talking about the one with am plus not. If I want to say I'm not a good boy, I can say I ain't a good boy. I ain't a good boy. Instead of saying I'm not, I can simply use its contracted form. Again, I shall not come. I shall not come. Instead of saying I shall not come, I can simply say I shan't come. So that we use the contracted form. And then we often advise that we use the contracted form to make your statement as simple as possible. When you use the contracted form, I've said that it's the same as the negative form. And now, let's come to the main one and then wrap up with that. When your statement is in the positive, then your question tag is going to be the negative form of the positive auxiliary verb plus the personal pronoun. When your statement is in the positive, then your question tag is going to be the negative contracted form of the positive auxiliary verb plus the personal pronoun. So anytime that you want to form a question tag, go and look for the auxiliary verb that has been used in the statement. Let's again go back and take a few of such examples. The man is seriously injured. This is a declarative statement. The man is seriously injured. Now I want to add a question tag. So what is my first demand? My first demand is to go and look for the the auxiliary verb. And from here we have indicated that X is auxiliary verb. And because S is not in the negative or the statement is in the positive statement, because the statement is positive, in other words, because the statement has no not, it means that I'm going to use the negative contracted form of this plus the personal pronoun. And what is the contracted negative form of is? And you saw from the table that it was isn't, and so we use isn't. Then we add the personal pronoun. And what is the personal pronoun of man? And because man, the personal pronoun is going to be in the third person singular, and so we have he. Then we bring a question mark. So the statement will read, the man is seriously injured, isn't he? So anytime you have a positive statement, you are going to use a negative question tag, and the negatives will be formed from the positive auxiliary verb by using it negative contracted form. Another example. Example 2. The boys are here. The boys are here. Now, because there's no not, adding to are, I have said it makes this statement positive. And for this statement to be positive, then each question tag should be negative. And so we are going to use the negative contracted form of are. And then we have just showcased that it should be aren't. And so we bring our question mark and then we add aren't. And then we add the personal pronoun of the boys. And the boys will be they. We can remove the boys and put they there. So say that they are here. And so we can simply write aren't they, and then we add our full stop to it. So we add our full stop to it. So these are positive statements. So let us go to situations where we have negative statement. Situations where we have negative statement. So for that one, example 1, let's look at this one. So we have a statement like this. The teachers couldn't finish their work on time. The teachers couldn't finish their work on time. So you see that couldn't is simply could plus not. And so we are using the negative in a contracted form. And so when we see a statement like this where the verb is in the negatives, then you are going to remove the not and make it in the simple form or the original form. So this time around they have added the not, so we're going to take the not from it. When they don't add the not, then you add it to it. That is what we are doing basically. And so we are going to remove the not and ask our answer using the simple auxiliary verb, and then we add our personal pronoun. So we say the teachers couldn't finish their work on time, and then the question tag becomes could they? So you see that we have just removed the contracted not, and then we just use the original, and then we have added the personal pronoun to it. So we have the teachers couldn't finish their work on time, and then the response is could they? Then example 2. So we are that. My father will not make it to the wedding ceremony. My father will not make it to the wedding ceremony. And so that is what we have. So if you look at the statement, this time around, the would and the not is the normal negative one. They did not use the contracted form in this instance. But because it is would and not, we still know that the statement is in a negative form. And so we only remove the not and use the normal auxiliary verb would to make our question tag. And so the statement becomes, or the question tag becomes would. And then we add the personal pronoun. And once again, my father will be he. So we say, would he? Would he? And so that is how we form question tags. And so question tags are simply grammatical structures that depict the shows declarative or imperative statements, and they are turned into questions by the additions of interrogative fragment. And so when you have statements, you consider whether they are positive or negative, and so you check the normal auxiliary verb or modal auxiliary verb they used. If they are positive, you use the 8 negative contracted form plus the personal pronoun, and then vice versa. Somebody may then ask, what about if the statement does not include auxiliary verb or modal auxiliary verbs? What if the statement does not include a modal auxiliary verb or auxiliary verb, as in the case of this? I saw him today. This is a declarative statement. But if you check this one, you cannot point any auxiliary verb or modal auxiliary verb in this statement. So you see that it doesn't work in all cases. Number 2. Number 2, the boys will finish their exams on time. The boys will finish their exams on time. The boys will finish their exams on time. Now, when you have examples like this, how do we form question tags? How do you form question tags? Now, when you have questions like this, then your question tag that you are going to use you are going to use do, don't, doesn't, or didn't. These are the ones that you are basically going to use. Do, don't, doesn't, and didn't. But in most cases, you are basically going to use doesn't and didn't. Doesn't and didn't. And so I'm going to emphasize on the two. Doesn't and didn't. Now, so we use doesn't, didn't, and let me add one, don't. So let us, for the moment, remove the do, because when they are giving you, it is simply, they'll give you don't, so you simply use do, and so that will not be challenging at all. But let us emphasize on don't, doesn't, and didn't. Don't, doesn't, and didn't. How do I do this? Let us first emphasize on the don't and then the doesn't. Why am I emphasizing on don't and doesn't? Because they are present auxiliary verbs. They are the present negative contracted auxiliary verbs. Negative contracted auxiliary verbs. And you know that both don't and doesn't, it past will be didn't. Now, when they ask or you make a statement without an auxiliary verb, check the verb that they used. So now you are going to place emphasis on the verb that they used. So if the verb is present, then you are going to use either don't or doesn't, depending on the subject. So if the subject is singular and the verb is present, if the subject is singular, and the verb is present, then you are going to use doesn't. If the verb is singular and then the verb is present verb, you are going to use doesn't. So for example, he writes his exams. He writes his exams. So first of all, you discover that here there is no auxiliary verbs. And I said if there's no auxiliary verbs, then the first thing that you must check is to check your verb. And then you discover that the verb is in the present state. The verb is in the present state. If your verb is in the present state, then the next thing that you must check is that you check your subject. Is the subject also singular or plural? So the subject here will be he. And then you know that he is singular. And so because the subject is singular and the verb is present, you are going to use doesn't. And so we say that he writes his exams. And so the question tag becomes doesn't he? Then we put our question mark there. Doesn't he? Then let's take example 2 in this instance. cries a lot. The child cries a lot. So you see that once again there's no auxiliary verb there. But we have cries, which is a present verb, and then we have the child, which is a singular subject. And so we are going to use doesn't. And so we add doesn't he. Now let us also look at when are we going to use don't. The don't, we are going to use it similarly to the doesn't. The only difference is that this time around the subject should be plural. The subject should be plural. So when the subject is plural and the verb is present, then we are going to use don't. If the subject is plural and the verb is present, you are going to use don't. For example, the men eat the food. The men eat the food. So because we don't have any auxiliary verb, and then we have a plural subject, and then we have a present verb, we are going to use don't. The men eat the food. And so we are going to have don't they. Don't they. And so to wrap up, let me add this one, that if the verb is plural, if the subject is plural and the verb is present, you use don't. Now the last one is that whether or not the subject is singular or plural, if the verb is past, you use didn't. Whether the subject is plural or singular, so long as the verb is past, you are going to use didn't. So let me wrap up with that. I've been indicated that my time is up. So we have a statement like this. The boy stole his money. The boy stole his money. Now you discover that there's no auxiliary verb. And here we have a past verb. So if I have a past verb, do not even look whether it is singular or plural subject. You simply use didn't plus the personal pronoun. Didn't he? So here the emphasis is that if there's no auxiliary verb and then the verb there is past, then you simply use didn't, whether it is singular or not. Then finally, they wrote the exams on time. Now there's no auxiliary verb, and in the past the verb there is past, and so whether it is plural or singular, we simply use didn't. So we have didn't they. So we have didn't they, then we put our question mark there. And so that is how we form question tag. We form it from auxiliary verbs. When the statement is positive, the question tag is negative. And once the statement is negative, the question tag is positive. And so we are going to use the contracted forms for it. and so you always check. However, if there's no auxiliary verb, you use doesn't, don't, or didn't. You use doesn't when the verb is present and the subject is singular. You use don't when the verb is present and the subject is plural. But you use didn't when the verb is past, whether the subject is singular or plural. You use that. So I'm challenging you to practice more. If you have any problem, you can put it on my channel AGPS TV. If I'm not able to answer it for you, the English facilitator that I'm standing in for today will take pains and take you through. This is AGPS TV. I hope you are blessed. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Abundant Grace International School, we are located right in Obuasi, precisely BDM. The school has a number of facilities that aid in learning. We have qualified and trained teachers who are ready and willing to assist the children. The school has many facilities such as the ICT laboratory. We also have a science laboratory. We also have a library. The school has a number of buses which convey the children from their various destinations to the school premises. We have the football team, we have the drama group, we have a lot, and the school is based on the Christian principles. For more inquiries, you can call this number 0541 310 901 0541 670772. Abundant Grace, in God we trust.